Welcome back to Tottenham on Tour's world famous Christmas Advent calendar. It is day number 10. Day number 10. The most important number in the history of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. My favourite number of a Tottenham Hotspur football shirt. And we're joined here with two of our family members for this special day. We've, of course, got Mr. Bobby K. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm very well. I'm fantastic. Happy to be here. Good to see you. Sitting beside legends all around here. I'm a bit overwhelmed here, man. I didn't know I was going to be on an all-star panel or dressed up a bit.
Yeah. And Mr. Simeon, how are you doing today, sir? How are you doing? Day number 10, eh?
Yeah, making my second appearance on the Advent calendar. Wouldn't have it any other way. Pleasure to be on your show, guys. Yeah, let's get into it.
Brilliant stuff.
I'm going to say here, and I said this to you just before, Ben. Day 10, as you said, this day is like the blockbuster. This is the star on top of the tree. And when I spoke to both Bobby and Simeon and say, what days, name me your favourite players, they named two players where out of these five, and these five are all blockbusters, three of them, two record goal scorers, one probably the greatest player that this club has ever seen, and their favourites are the two other players. I mean, that's how crazy today is, but it's a blockbuster. But over to you, Ben.
And yeah, it's time. It's the Advent calendar. So of course, how do we start it? It's time for terrible Christmas cracker jokes. And we're going to start with Bobby because he has stolen some jokes from our wonderful little K, and he is going to share them with the world. So Bobby, you start us off.
Now, folks, sit back, get ready. I don't want you to fall down when you're laughing so hard at these. So make sure you're in a comfortable position because these are from the mind and mouth of my little K, the little giant in this household. So you know they're going to be quality and cheesy. That being said, the first one he said to me is, Dad, what does Santa do with naughty elves? Or what does Santa give naughty elves? Jesus, I forgot it. Gives them the sack.
Okay, when you said what does he do with naughty ones, I was about to say puts them on the shelf. But then obviously you went
that work too. I better write that down and give that to him when he comes home now. And the other one he had to do was because our beloved Teddy Sheringham cat, who is family here, he had to bring in something cat related. So he goes, Dad, who delivers the presents to cats? And I don't know. He goes, Santa Paws.
Oh,
God's sake.
Okay, so Simeon.
Thank you for having me on, guys. It was great. Everybody enjoy your Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. God bless.
Simeon, you will go down in history as telling the first ever Advent calendar joke on this collection. And you're back with another one. Fire away.
all right. Well, my Christmas cracker joke goes: who is Santa's favourite goalkeeper? Vicari ho ho ho.
Oh God! You managed to tell a worse Christmas joke than Little K.
I actually like it.
I think it's brilliant. Ben and Sim have actually found a way to just do Tottenham jokes, which is brilliant. That's the professionals that they are.
That's how it's done. I should have used Tottenham jokes instead of my kids' jokes.
I'm actually very proud of the joke I found. This one is bad, but I'm proud of. What is the most popular Christmas wine? I don't like Brussels sprouts. I love it. Whining. You come on, think outside the box, people. Think outside the box. I did love that pause. I just felt very alone just then. Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Oh God!
What do you do? Do you roll the credits from here, or what do you do?
I think my joke might actually be the funniest, so I might win this day.
Go on, let's do it.
What did Adam say the day before Christmas?
Not a clue.
It's Christmas Eve.
Oh,
Oh.
dear. I think Simeon's won it. The Tottenham jokes seem to win it. But you know what?
Come on.
Let us know in the comments who you think told the best joke.
We are-
The only person that's going to side with Little K is Kuva because he loves cats.
Yeah.
He's the only one that'll appreciate the Santa Claus joke.
That's true. Now, listen, we're going to get into this. Now, 10 is a number you don't realise how important it is, but we're about to. The first player was synonymous wearing the number 8, but he did wear the number 10. And seeing that number 10 is all about goal scorers and a god, we've got probably arguably what people will say is the greatest natural goal scorer this football club has ever and probably will ever see. The late, great Jimmy Greaves. And Ben, over to you, brother.
This is the greatest player to ever play for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. That just full stop, end of, the end. He was, I've spoken to many people about Jimmy Greaves and his time in the club that were able to watch him play. The word they used when he got the ball, if he wanted to score a goal. He was a bit of a languid, lazy player, but when he got the ball, he would scamper past. But that was the word they used. They didn't, it wasn't blistered or sprint. He scampered past them like they weren't even there. Whenever Jimmy Greaves wanted to score a goal, he just did it. And which is even crazier because half the time he was drunk as well. He was loaded up. So the fact that this player got that many goals, we got him because we got his official goals because this is about goal scorers. So his official goal tally is 266 for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. He scored that many goals with his injury record as well. If he wasn't injured, because he was playing at a time, he could be close to 500 goals.
Yeah.
He was just that good. He just scored and he scored and he scored. World Cup winner as well. World Cup winner in 66. Didn't play the final. He was robbed of that. But there is nothing that this man couldn't do with a ball at his feet, playing on pitches that were mud, people 2 foot tackling him, trying to break his leg. What a footballer. We'll go to Simeon.
Concrete.
Yeah. We'll go to Simeon about Jimmy Greaves. What do you know about Jimmy Greaves? I know it's before all of our times, but what do you know?
I mean, I've watched highlights of him, and he seems like, even though he scored that many goals, he seems like just such a graceful footballer, like very unbelievable close control. The ball seems glued to his feet, like Messi-like even, like from what you see now. And considering as Ben said, that the pitches they played on, how he was able to do that and run at such speed with the ball so close to him. And then obviously he was known for the calm, composed finishes in front of goal, wasn't he? I remember Jermaine Defoe once said that he always used to smash the ball in the back of the net until he watched some videos of Jimmy Greaves, and he taught him how to just caress the ball and pass the ball to the back of the net instead of always having to blast it. I think he left such a legacy, not just at Tottenham, but I think if you look at all goal scorers in English history, I think he's still top. Like he's still, I think he's of overall for in English league football. I think he's the top of the tree. He's an unbelievable goal scorer, and considering as well his goal scoring rate is ridiculous. I think Kane obviously has overtaken him for Tottenham, but I still think if you look at like a goals per game ratio, Jimmy Greaves is still well out in front in terms of the amount of games he played, and obviously won trophies for Tottenham. He's obviously a legend of the game, not just of Tottenham, but of all the clubs he's played at. And just watching the videos and the clips back of him, he just seemed like an incredible footballer. And it's a shame that, as Ben said, he maybe didn't get a recognition for his country at certain times. Was his record as well that Kane broke for England? Wasn't he top for England when Kane broke it as well?
And then Wayne Rooney.
He was quite high up for England anyway, wasn't he? If I remember in the score.
Exceptionally high.
He was Bobby. Oh, you got anything more? Sim?
No, it's fine. I'm just saying he's a legend of the game, and I'm so proud that he played for Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah. And Mr. Bobby, tell us what you know about Jimmy Greaves from what you know.
What he said. How do you expect me to go after him? You can't do that. You can't do that. That's like saying, okay, Wikipedia, answer the question. All right, Bobby. What? You know what? The one thing I do know about him that I love about him is that he shares a birthday with somebody very near and dear to me. His birthday was February 20th, which is my birthday. So legends are clearly born on that day. Big up, Jimmy.
Damn right. But my
the-
brother is also born on that day, so
Is
clearly
he on 20th too? Oh, nice.
clearly made a mistake on that day.
The world was misaligned. The one thing I can appreciate about him, which you guys already touched on, is, you know, I know you go back and you watch those games and you see that movement of the ball and stuff like that. That's one thing I've kind of always, when I go back and I watch that old stuff, you see the way that ball moved compared to the way the ball moves now and the way it floats in the air kind of thing. They were playing with a ball that literally seemed like a concrete core to it. So the fact that these guys are smashing the ball in like that and able to caress the ball, finesse it into the net, like Sim said there already, it just shows you how much skill he really had. It would be remarkable to be able to rehatch him and see what he would do on today's pitches that are flat, aerodynamically designed. The grass blades are all cut in one direction and everything.
1,000 goals. If he played today. 1,000 goals.
I wonder if even more, Ben. You know, guys like that just they're very, very rare, and that's why he's still celebrated to this day. And the only disappointing thing I can say about him is that it's kind of heartbreaking that the club haven't recognized what a great legend he was and put a damn statue up of the man yet. Because if anyone deserves one, I think that's one guy who. It's a Christmas special, Betty.
It's Christmas.
Behave now. But yeah, there's one guy I know I'd love to be able to show my appreciation to, taking my children to the stadium and everything, and saying, look, this is what Tottenham is about. This, you know what I mean? Having a little bit of nostalgia, a little bit of that history. Us as being as foreign fans, of course, I'm not nearly as educated you guys are in terms of the history of the club and the way obviously things operate. But to go there for a fan, even a foreign fan or a local fan, to bring their child there and show a statue, as a representative of what this badge means and what this club means, that is the one person I think that would truly deserve to have, you know, to be immortalized, basically. So, you know, like Sim said, thank you for playing for Tottenham and leaving us just legendary status for what he's accomplished, right?
This man, you speak to Spurs, like if you speak to Grandpa Sim, or if you speak to anyone of the age that witnessed him, you watch their eyes light up, a smile comes on, and they're like, oh, now you're talking. It's like, and not just that, you look at the great strikers that have gone by for any football club, they're not always universally liked. Like we can talk about strikers that have done well, like you say, players from other teams. Oh, yeah, whatever. Even people back then, you speak about Jimmy Greaves to a football fan from any team back then, they will say, the man was a magician. You talked about the goals he scored. We all waxed lyrical about Lionel Messi taking the ball from the halfway line, taking on 4 players and beating the keeper. Jimmy did it on the pitches that we've just been talking about. This guy was a great goal scorer and a goal scorer of great goals. We hear that said before. This man, like you said at the beginning, Ben, if he wanted to score, there wasn't a damn thing anyone could do. There's not a damn thing anyone could do about it. And just to show his humorous side, because he did have a very, very wicked sense of humor, when they were talking about strikers with goal droughts, he was once famously said, Jimmy, did you ever have a goal drought? He said, yeah, I had a goal drought. Was 25 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
I
think you sent me that. I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Kind of man that he was, like, if I speak to my dad and obviously my late grandpa, mate, just like we all say, and I never got to have a connection. Oh, I do have a connection with him, unfortunately, and I'll explain why. Everyone wants to have that connection. Unfortunately, my first ever game at the Hotspur Stadium, where I was with Simeon and Ben, luckily, and Danny Kiriak and everyone, was a 3-0 defeat to Chelsea. Mm-hmm. That game, I could not care less about the result. It was the day that this great man passed away. So, like you said, if there's any man that is due a statue, apart from Bill Nick, it's this man without a doubt. Now, listen, you said the greatest all time, and a lot of people will say that. But then you have a lot of people, and I do mean a lot of people, that will mention this little average player. Crappy little player, really, this guy.
Yeah, he's awful.
And I had to pick with him in it. Like, I'll go back to this picture very quickly, because people talk about Paolo Di Canio volleys when both feet were off the ground, or this man was the master at that. But Ben, as always, you first.
Another legendary number 10 for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Again, you've said it perfectly. Another guy that people would also say this was the best person to play for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. A guest we've had on the show, Mickey Hazard, regularly says that Glenn was a cut above. He was an unbelievable football player for Tottenham Hotspur, and it's an insult that he had so little caps for the football club. Michel Platini said himself, if he was French or Italian, he would have had over 150 caps for their country. He was that good. He was just that good. Some of the goals, Watford in the FA Cup, when he turned and chipped it over the keeper, that was just the absolute epitome of a footballer. We were at the Royale Sim with Glenn turned up late, but we were listening to Maxi.
Glenn, is it? Glenn turned up late, yeah, not Mr. Hoddle.
Yeah.
Glenn turned. Okay.
Yeah, he turned up late. Mr. Hoddle turned up late, but Maxi Miller was talking about Mr. Hoddle, and he just said, whatever you did, like people would smash the ball 10 foot above him, and he would still control it. Yep. He was just that good. It was almost like it was Magneto, and he would just control the football. Like every single thing, if you fired it from 2 yards, controlled it perfectly. 30 yards, he was just the epitome of a class footballer. He could do anything. And later, he was doing like on BT Sport, when BT Sport was BT Sport, and he did like a football challenge of kicking balls in bins. He still got it, like across the parking lot, close, bang. Bang, every single one of them in the bin. He could probably play now. That's how good he was as a footballer. He's just that good. That much control and finesse and class. But we'll go to you next, Sim. What's your feelings on God himself, as they call him?
Yeah, that's what they used to call him, the GOAT. My dad used to show me clips of Glenn Hoddle when I was growing up, and I was always just amazed by the quality of goal that he used to score. There's a few stick out. There was that volley against Man United, which Brian was alluding to, that volley off the ground, which he seemed to hang in the air like he was just hovering in the air when he struck that. There was this amazing goal against Oxford, which I've seen about 100 times, and I still don't know what he does to get around the keeper. He does some unbelievable footwork to walk around the keeper and in between two players and score. He was just a phenomenal talent. If you hear any player speak who played during that generation, they all say that Glenn Hoddle was the best midfielder in England, and he was by far like the most technical player. Unfortunately, in that kind of era, it was players like Brian Robson and those kind of midfielders who were more highly appreciated for England anyway. Tough as nails kind of things. That's what was kind of English football's all about. And maybe he was just playing in the wrong era, man before his time, it feels like Glenn Hoddle. And if he was playing now, he would have been even greatly appreciated. But any former player that speaks about him, any player even that played in that generation who played against him, all says that this guy was far and away the best passer, the best long wrist distance shooter. The amount of free kicks he scored as well. You've seen some unbelievable free kicks he scored against the likes of Man United, for Tottenham as well. And again, he did it on these pitches. He was able to make those pitches seem like graceful carpets when they were mud slodges. And it was incredible, absolutely incredible. And if you just go back, sometimes you go back and watch people like, you go back and watch his goals, and they're just some of the best goals you're ever likely to see. He says there he's got 88 goals, and I bet you, and most of them are just absolute bangers. He loved Galazzo, Glenn Hoddle, and I think Ben's absolutely right. It's just a shame that he just played in an era where England appreciated a different type of midfielder, because I think if he was playing now, he'd be starting for England.
If he was playing now, he would be the best on the planet by a country mile. 100%.
I remember there was a Chelsea player you've been talking about, because he was player manager at Chelsea in the Premier League. And I remember, I can't remember which one it was. It might have been Dennis Wise, but he was talking about in an interview how Glenn Hoddle in training, he would just be the best player on the pit in training and he would be like 38 at the time, and he would just come into training and he would just be the best player, and he would always pick himself because he knew he was the best, and no one else could say anything because everyone could see it in training. He would just run the game, and that was even when he was that late, he was that old. So, and also can't forget his punditry for the Ajax away game just after he had a heart attack. And he's jumping up and down. He's being bundled by Rio Ferdinand. And the heart attack went to the back of the mind in that moment because of his love for Spurs. And he was always fully Spurs as well. And that's what I remember about him.
And Mr. Bobby, I know it's difficult coming after that, but give it a go, Sunshine.
What he said. Seriously, guys. The one thing I can say that thankfully Sim didn't say or none of you guys said is I had the pleasure and privilege of meeting Keith Birkinshaw when I came to the game in 2018 at Wembley. The good guys over at Punjabi Spurs there, Josh, was able to arrange that for me, and what a treat that was.
You must have been there. I didn't know you. Anyway.
No. I was nowhere near you. I didn't even know what the hell YouTube was back then. But yeah, my internet was used for all different things then, Sim. Oh, that's
Keep it clean, Bobby.
Yeah, no, that's how I said it's a different conversation. But I got to sit down with Keith, that bar that's attached to Wembley, and sat down and chatted with him and stuff like that. And one of the fond memories that he went on about was leading the team with Steve Perryman and the I think it was 81-82 or 82-83 FA Cup back 81-82, the back-to-back wins, and how instrumental Glenn Hoddle was in not only being on the pitch, but what he brought, like Sim touched on, in training. The way he pushed the squad, the way he motivated players to be better. He raised the bar. He raised the level of players around him. That seems to be almost non-existent nowadays, where players are almost individuals. They forget the team aspect of things. And for a guy to wax on lyrically about this guy, we're talking 40 years later almost. Mm-hmm. This is 2018 that I met Keith, and he had this conversation. 40 years later, this guy's going on about how wonderful this kid was, and that was one of the fondest memories that he had. And he, just waxed lyrical about Perryman and Glenn Hoddle, of course, but the way he spoke about Glenn Hoddle, it was like watching a proud father speak about his accomplished child. You can just see the glow in his eyes kind of thing about just everything this guy did was just absolutely unbelievable. Every touch was just absolutely perfect. And stop making me go after Sim.
Well, mate, put it this way. You could either go after Sim or you could go after Sim and me.
Yeah. I thought you were saying go after Sim.
I've got a few plans.
So listen, all I can say is there's so many things Simeon said that I'm so happy he didn't carry on, because he talks about the Man U volley. Go look at the Nottingham Forest volley.
I wasn't done yet. I was going to talk about the volley he had against
long
Forest.
Long kick from the goalkeeper, couple of headers, bang. Ball doesn't even touch the ground. Does not even touch the ground. I caught the very, very tail end of Hoddle, and the goal against Oxford that he's talking about was his final goal in his final home game at Tottenham Hotspur. When you say the stars align for people, this is what gods do. That was like, have a goodbye. He takes two players on. He runs through them. He runs through two people. He had the whole pitch. The defenders coming like this. He goes, I'm just going to walk through you. And then, like Sim that said, God knows what he does to get around the goalie without even touching the ball. The goalkeeper falls over and goes one way. There's a documentary for people that haven't seen Gaza, because it's on YouTube. I've watched it on YouTube. Hoddle, a touch of a genius. That's all you need to watch. It weren't just the goals he scored. It's not even the goals that I appreciate from him. It's the passing. This guy could pass it 2 yards. He could pass it 90. And not just that, if he needed backspin on it, he'd do it. You watch the amount of passes where the players didn't even have to break stride. It was like, you start running, I'll put it exactly where you need it.
Yeah.
This guy is just an absolute genius. An absolute goddamn genius. And like Sim said about Chelsea, Paul Merson, we're talking ex-Arsenal, was in the France 98 World Cup team that he was a part of and Hoddle managed. And he even said Glenn Hoddle could play for England even now. That's what we're talking. This is how good this man is. I mean, you look at, we had Hoddle and Waddle. If he had stayed another, if he had been if he had not gone to Monaco, it'd have been Hoddle, Waddle, Gaza. And then if he had stayed another year, it would have been Hoddle, Waddle, Gaza, Lineker. My God, teams might as well have just given up.
Yeah.
Because that's, I hear Sim say this before, use this term. I never used it, but that would have been a cheat code.
Yeah.
That would have been a cheat code all in itself, those four.
Yeah.
This man, honestly, like you said, like Sim said again, every single player that played with him or against him will just say how great this man was.
And most importantly, Brian, every single person in this list had a partnership that lasts for the test of time. And quite a few of us have partnerships as well. You've got Ben and Brian. You've got Ben and Sim, Bobby and Greaves, Hoddle and Waddle, Greaves and Gilzine, Sheringham and Klinsmann, Keane and Berbatov, Kane and Son. This is all the partnerships, but not as important as the four partnerships on the screen.
Exactly. You know what, Bobby, you're going to be happy now. You're going to be happy because the player we're moving to is your guy. We're talking about partnerships. For me, still to this day, I honestly think if it had been today, this man and Jurgen Klinsmann, if they're playing now, would be more devastating than Son and Kane.
Yeah.
That's how big this partnership was. But Ben, Teddy Sheringham.
This was I was like the first hero I can remember growing up as a Spurs fan. Because I was growing up in that era when he came back from when he was at Man United and he won absolutely nothing. We won't talk about that. But he came back to Tottenham. He scored his 300th goal in a Spurs shirt in that era when he came back. He was an absolute 300 goals in his career. 300 goals in his career. He was a legendary player. He made every single person around him, even in that terrible Tottenham team, a better player. Of course, he had some few good players like Gus Poyet was in that team. There was a few interesting players in that team. We won't talk about them because they are Judases. But he was a legendary player. Like we've talked about them when he was with Klinsmann in the early 90s. But even when he was later in his career, he still made an impact as a captain, as a striker, goals here and there. He was just a legendary player. And that's a player you grow up as a kid wanting to aspire to be. That was an absolutely legendary footballer. A treble winner at Man United. But where he was just class. Top class. And again, another underappreciated player. But we're going to break the rules on this one. We're going to have Bobby go first because we're not going to let him be undermined by Sim. That's right. Bobby's going first.
Yeah. And what? What he said. I can't do that one this time. You know what, guys? Honestly, this is the guy for me that made me fall in love with football, fall in love with Tottenham in the first place. I was 16 years old, 1992, at a pub in England. The European qualifications were going on. England were playing against Bulgaria. I watched him go through 3 Bulgarian players inside the half, turn around with his back to the Bulgarian goal, turn around and just pitch it up to Les Ferdinand, who the ball just dropped right in his path, took a couple of steps, boom, right into the bottom corner. And at that time, there was no football on television here. The only way you'd get to see football is if maybe you'd find somebody playing it on a pitch, which was almost impossible. Everybody plays hockey. So when I saw that happen, and the pub that I was in erupted and everything, and it was just fantastic. I remember my cousin, who's a big Spurs fan, turned to me and said, "That's Teddy Sheringham. He's coming to Spurs." That was just before he'd come from Forest, right? So then the next season, there he is on Tottenham, and that's when I started following now Tottenham. They weren't that great back then, unfortunately, but it was love at first sight with this guy. The issue is I didn't really get to see too much of him as a player. Highlights. There you go. Highlights, of course, because again, we didn't really start getting football on television here until I would say early 2000s, and very few people had that because you'd have to have certain networks or something like that. The way you guys have to have like Sky or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So even that was very, very rare. If you did go to a pub to watch a game, of course, it was always the big four. You had Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Man United. Even in the newspapers here, there was very, very little information. There would be a couple articles maybe regarding those top four, and the back of it would be the table. That's about it, and the scores. So there was absolutely nothing to kind of follow on this guy. So I really wish that I was in England when I got to see and see more of this person instead of having to go back and watch highlights. I would have liked to experience more stuff live from him. I do know that what was it? Oh, dude, who did they lose? No, they won the League Cup. It was
99.
Blackburn.
We lost to Blackburn.
No, we lost that
We lost
again.
to
We
Blackburn.
lost
That was
against
the last-
Blackburn, 2002.
So I think that 2000. So that was the one of the first games I got to actually see him play in, like actually on television, because that game was on at the pub here because of course it was the final, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, Tottenham was not shown. We weren't important kind of thing, but I just everything I've ever seen about the guy, all the passes he made, he almost. That's why I really. I'm sure I'm going to get ripped for this comment here, but I always think that Harry Kane is almost an extension of Teddy Sheringham in the way he played, the way he distributed the ball kind of thing, the way he almost had a midfielder's eye to be able to shoot the ball 30 yards down on a flank or down the middle or something like that, look for a runner. The partnership that him and Klinsmann had, you go back, you watch the highlights of the goals these guys scored together, the way they played off each other. He was almost more of a kind of a second striker or a center forward, just kind of coming in behind. Now, I don't know if that was because of lack of pace or if that was his positioning, but for a guy that was very slow, he seemed to be able to know where to be. He just was involved in everything all the time. I absolutely love the guy. The fact that he, at the end of the career, when he was asked about Arsenal, if he would ever play for Arsenal, he said something along the lines, I'm not going to repeat it because I know it's a bit vulgar, but he basically said that there's no hope in hell or no chance in hell that would have happened. I would rather have retired kind of thing, which made me love the guy even more. And then on top of that, when he did retire, where did he go to try starting his managerial career? My motherland. A man goes and represents ATK in India in India and tried to manage them over there. So big up Teddy. Much love. And of course, then we have Teddy Sheringham named after him as well.
There you go. Well, Simeon, now you follow that.
Yeah, how do you follow that?
Yes. Now, how does it feel?
What he said.
Well played.
No, look, I didn't get to see much of Teddy in his first spell at Spurs, but all I can say is like he was so good, Sheringham. He almost has like a role named after him. That's how influential he was to English football. Like now, anytime a striker kind of drops deep and becomes like a link the play striker, they're like, oh, they're playing the Sheringham role. Oh, they're being like Teddy Sheringham. That's who they can get compared to. That's how influential he was. And obviously, he was captain of Tottenham in his second spell as well. Really, really influential. Was always a scorer of really good goals. Had a really great free kick. Scored lots of free kicks. Always liked to goal from outside the box as well. But obviously, he was also a natural striker. Brilliant in the air. Brilliant finisher when through on goal. Had a great partnership, from what I saw, with Robbie Keane only for 1 year. They were together, but they developed a really good partnership together. And he was always a clutch player. As Ben said, he scored in the 99 Cup Champions League final. He scored in that game, the famous game where Beckham equalised against Greece. Yep. He also scored in that game as well. Like he scored a lot of important goals throughout his career. He always seemed to be a player that stepped up when his team needed him most. And he was just a phenomenal goal scorer. And he was one of those players who say he would drop deep, link the play, but always getting involved amongst the goals. Always had a great goal scoring record as well. Could really do it all. Was a phenomenal striker.
Listen, it's like Simeon and me are synced again. Like I'm with Ben. I'm sure we're chipped. I've said this before. So no. The reason I'm saying that is when you talk about, first of all, the position named after him, that is the position I played. That was when I was growing up. That was my favourite position on the football pitch. in front of the midfield, behind the striker, doing what Teddy Sheringham did. I didn't even know that was a position. And then Simeon also mentions the partnership with Robbie Keane. If you look at it, Alan Shearer, if you ask Alan Shearer who was his favourite strike partner, he'll say Teddy Sheringham. If you ask Jurgen Klinsmann who was his favourite strike partner, he will say Teddy Sheringham. In fact, when Jurgen Klinsmann went to Bayern Munich, they asked who would you want as your strike partner, and he turned around and said Teddy Sheringham, and obviously that didn't happen. I started going regularly under this guy, and you know what? He was brought in to replace Gary Lineker.
Yeah.
So you're thinking an out-and-out striker, a proper goal scorer, and in his first season he won the Golden Boot. But you know what? Like people say, his lack of pace and anything. Even with Paul Gascoigne, this is how big a statement I make when I'm comparing someone to Paul Gascoigne. Teddy Sheringham, when you watched him live, the evolution of his speed of thought, you didn't really get to see it on TV. You didn't have all the angles that Sky and Beat It and everyone has now. I have been at Spurs games where Teddy Sheringham would drop into space and all of a sudden, out of the blue, start screaming, give me the ball, because he'd seen something. And within 2 or 3 passes, it's a goal. Like literally, he could see something, whang, bang, wallop, it's done. The way this man could, this is why he could play till 39.
Yeah.
I mean, my favourite goal, and there's a load of Teddy Sheringham ones. I have a real. We went to Coventry once in the Carabao Cup, whatever it was called back then.
Yeah.
And we were 2-0 up. It was the season after Klinsmann left. We were 2-0 up, and then we lost 3-2 and went out the cup in true Tottenham style.
Yeah.
From that moment, I hated Coventry, obviously with the FA Cup final with Mabbott as well.
Yeah.
3 weeks later, we were playing Coventry again away. And I was like, we're going. So we all went back up. Raul Fox scored a cracking volley, but Teddy Sheringham scores one of the most audacious lobs from inside the area. We look at Glenn Hoddle's chip against Watford. I compare it, the finish and the technique towards that. And to have 2 seasons, this man, his speed of thought is still, I would say, one of the best I've ever seen. And one of the best, not just as a Spurs player, his speed of thought was one of the best you'll ever see. And what a player. Right, we move on from the reason Bobby's here to the reason that Simeon wanted to come on. When I said to him, Simeon, name me your favourite ever Spurs player, or one of them, this man popped up. Ben, we're now talking your era as well now.
Yeah.
Go on, Robbie.
911 goals in 238 games.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
I think Kane's record has gone to pot. Because
you want me to do this, Sim, to make it even easier? It doesn't do it. It doesn't do it, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, 91 goals, 1 League Cup.
I know.
No, I didn't even look at it like that. I just to make it worse, I saw that as 9/11. But that's another.
Do that then.
But
there we go.
There we go. Back to you, Ben. Robbie Keane.
What a brilliant player he was for Tottenham. This was the first player that broke my heart as a Tottenham player because how good he was. When he went to Liverpool, I was heartbroken. It was one of those players that transitioned from my childhood to sort of my because he was that 2003 to when did he go to Liverpool? It was 2007, right? It was just after.
Yes, it was
2007, 2008 was when he went to Liverpool. Is that me growing up? He was my guy. Him and Berbatov as another partnership. He was a brilliant striker for Tottenham. He headed and kicked every ball on that football pitch. He ran around like a lunatic, but goal machine. Chelsea was the best one. Whenever he was hit the back of Ricardo Carvalho's head, bashed it in the top corner. That's what he was instinctive. He was an instinctive goal scorer that worked his socks off. A brilliant captain for Tottenham in both in his second spell under Harry Redknapp when he came back in 2008, 2009. He's just a brilliant player. I loved Robbie Keane growing up, and we'll get Sim's views on it in a sec. But he was brilliant. Like if he again is another player that's sort of out of time, in like, because if he was playing in sort of the 70s period, he would be brilliant because he was just instinctive. Put a ball in the 6-yard, where was Robbie Keane? Back of the net. He was just foxing the box, but he was more than that as well. Linked play, worked his socks off. Absolutely brilliant for Tottenham. And a League Cup as well. My proudest moment ever as a Tottenham fan. Jonathan Woodgate in extra time. Robbie Keane as the team captain at the time, not the club captain. Captained us to a League Cup final.
Yep.
So absolutely brilliant. Simbo, what do you think about Robbie Keane?
Yeah, when I was growing up, he was my favourite player by far. Absolutely. It was one of the main reasons I fell in love with Tottenham was watching Robbie Keane play. He was just such the cheekiest, most audacious player you could probably find playing up front for Tottenham at the time. He always used to try little tricks, little things in the forward line, which people wouldn't dare try in those positions, and it would always come off for him. But as Ben said, he was also had a brilliant sense of timing when it came into the box. He always seemed to be in the right place at the right time. But I just remember so many standout moments. He scored some brilliant goals. I remember a 25-yard goal against Chelsea, which equalised in the 4-4. I was there. I remember when we played Blackburn in the Premier League, he lobbed it over two players' heads and stuck it past Brad Friedel. One of the most outstanding memories of Robbie Keane is watching him wait behind the goalkeeper for him to roll it out and then run ahead of him and tackle him and put it in the empty net.
Yeah.
That was the kind of cheekiness that epitomised someone like Robbie Keane. And it was weird for his first couple of years at Tottenham. He was good, but he wasn't quite like a mainstay in the team. He was always battling with people like Defoe and Canute, and he was kind of in and out of the team. But there was just 1 year where he just decided, no, I'm just becoming the team's best player. I've just decided. And I think it was under Martin Jol, I remember. And he just became one of the best strikers in the Premier League, and all of a sudden became a phenomenal goal scorer. And he was part of that period where he struck up that partnership with Berbatov, and it was, I think, for me, the best partnership I've ever seen live. It was the most enjoyable partnership I've ever seen. Just two players complementing each other. Sometimes you find two players who a bit like Crouch and Defoe, who are complement each other in a different way because they're different. But I felt like Berbatov and Keane complemented each other because they were just always on the same wavelength. Even though they liked to play in a similar way, they were always in tune with each other. It was like they were telepathic. They both knew where each other was at all times, and they both knew how to link play. They could both run in behind. They could both come short and try little flicks, and had that unbelievable quality that they had together. And he was just my favourite player, and it absolutely broke my heart when he went to Liverpool, especially because after the League Cup, he said he was going to stay for Tottenham for his whole career. And then come the summer, he was out the door and he joined his, quote, boyhood club, Liverpool, which he had a number of boyhood clubs, apparently, during his time. Celtic was another one. But he did rejoin Tottenham 6 months later after joining Liverpool. I always felt like it was weird for Keane, because if you look at his career, he was a proper journeyman. Apart from at Tottenham, I don't think he stayed probably for more than a year or a couple of years. Apart from at Spurs, was the only club he could really find a home, and the only club that understood him. But for some reason, when he did come back, I don't know what it was. He just wasn't the same. Even though he wasn't that old, he came back at 29. And I don't know what changed. Maybe he lost confidence.
Liverpool move broke him.
Yeah, something happened. He just was never the same. But before that, he was my favourite player just for his cheekiness.
Simeon, before we go to Bobby, do you remember the advert that Virgin Trains did for Robbie Keane?
Yeah.
No.
So when Robbie Keane came back to Tottenham, Virgin actually did an advertising campaign that said London to Liverpool return for cheaper and quicker than Robbie Keane.
Oh, classic.
There was the typical, it's just rub salt in the wounds.
And also record goal score for Ireland by country mile. No one's close to that.
Yeah.
No one will the way they're going. I'm sorry, Irish Hotspur, if you're watching. Not a long time in coming.
It's another person that absolutely adores Robbie Keane.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Bobby, you remember Robbie Keane or memories of him?
Oh, yeah, because I remember actually he came in right before Teddy left, right? So I remember he came from Leeds, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
And
the first for knowledge.
Sorry?
No one's going to get that reference.
Oh, okay. I just remember my cousin was the one that talked a lot about him because I think he was in Italy somewhere before that too, right? And it was Inter. Thank you. He was saying how fast he is and everything, how well he's going to play with Teddy Sheringham. Teddy's going to be able to hold the ball up. This kid's going to run by. He'll put it on his foot every single time. So I remember how excited he was about this upcoming partnership and was waiting for it to just explode. Like Sim already said, unfortunately, they only got the one season together. It would have been nice to see them grow. But then Berbatov came in a couple of years later. It was about 4 years later after Keane was there.
3 years later.
Yeah, 3 years later. So, and then that partnership, what they became was, I guess, my gift from the football gods to say, here, sorry, you didn't get to watch Klinsmann and Teddy.
Yep.
We'll let you watch Robbie and Burba together. And it was amazing. I still remember the two of them in that 6-4 Reading shootout game where the two of them were just, they were almost unstoppable. Mind you, our Reading looked unstoppable because they kept scoring too. But every time they went forward, these guys, they just got goals. The way they worked with each other, the touches they had on the ball and everything, the chemistry they had, it just makes you appreciate and love the beautiful sport and shows you what chemistry can do in this game. If you can get an understanding with the person that's working with you, how well the game flows. It's poetry in motion. And I saw that with Robbie. And the energy that he brought, the celebration, the cartwheel and the gunshots and everything like that. He was the kind of player that excited you. Just seeing him got you excited. He got you charged up kind of thing. All right, Robbie, what are you going to do today kind of thing. So I can appreciate and understand why Sim would have absolutely loved this guy, seeing him as a youngster, because he was just so exciting. There's nothing really bad that you can say about him. The only disappointing thing was, like you said, he went to Liverpool and then he changed after that, didn't he? I still remember it was we sold him for 20 and bought him back for 15 6 months later or something like that. So, it was like, okay, so we lent him to you for £5 million or whatever it was then, euro or whatever.
Leaving the mix.
Sorry?
So I had a cough.
And then when he came back, like you said, he just didn't hit the heights and stuff. And then, of course, Berbatov turned around and left as well. So him and Defoe just never really were able to kind of create that partnership, but they were too similar, right?
Them leaving at the same time was a disaster, wasn't it, Bobby?
Oh, well, we saw what happened
I mean,
afterwards.
it's exhausting when you replace him with Pavlyuchenko, that's for sure.
Oh, mate, what's a cult hero? What a cult, mate. I loved him. But Robbie Keane, listen, I won't speak as long as the boys did, because I was Team Berber all the way. I thought Berber made him a much, much better. But one thing a few things I will say about King very quickly is this man is another guy that could turn it on in like that. Yeah. Just go watch his goal against Leeds in his first season, an outstep of the foot half volley, goals against Blackburn, not just the one that Simeon mentioned, but away at Blackburn when he ran off the pitch with his first goal. This guy could just hat tricks out of the blue. Just when you needed it most, he would pull it out of the bag. Loved the club. He was so passionate. One thing you can never take away from him, one of the most passionate Spurs players you'll ever see, and really, really took Spurs to his heart. But I do have a funny story, or I say funny, embarrassing story for me when it comes to Robbie Keane. So Robbie Keane lived in Hadley Wood, lived very, very close to where my parents live. I won't say the name of the road because I think he still owns the house, so I don't have people going down there. Anyway, there is a pub by Cockfosters Station called the Cock and Dragon. The day after the season finished, before he moved to Liverpool, I was there having a session. I was still drinking, and we're sitting in one of the most loveliest beer gardens. In walks Robbie Keane, and it was his regular. Walks in with Alan Hutton, sits in the beer garden. Robbie Keane and Alan Hutton are knocking ciders back like you have never seen people drink. It's like, okay, it's the end of the season. They can do what they want. I've had a few drinks. I'm with a couple of mates. Robbie Keane had just broken some Spurs record. I can't remember what it was. I think what you've got there, Ben, is Premier League goals, not goals in total, because I'm sure he got over 100. And I think what he had done has broke the 100. And I thought, you know what? I'd had a few drinks. I thought, I'm going to go over and chat to Robbie. I'm going to go. And I walked up there. I was a bit drunk or a bit merry, bowled over there. And I had it in my head, just say to him, all right, Robbie, how you doing? Want to say thanks for everything you've done, 100 goals, blah, 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 blah. Got over there, just froze like a statue for a few seconds. Alan Hutton looks at me like he was going to eat me. He is one scary beast, and I mean one scary man, Alan Hutton. And what I meant to say is exactly what I said just before. What I actually said was, hey, Robbie Grace, he's a great goals, yay! But the impression I just did, it was about 15 decibels higher, screeching like my balls hadn't dropped. And he just looked at me, and let's just say I walked off, and about 20 minutes later, and he went, thanks, mate. And then I spoke to him properly, but probably one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. Thankfully, no one was there. But hey, why don't I just tell that in front of 7,000 of our subscribers? So when they do watch this, I could just relive the embarrassment.
Right.
But
Final player, of course, is Darren Bent. Because we all watch Darren Bent, don't we?
I mean, listen, if we go through this, we've had what people say is the greatest natural goal scorer, the greatest player, the greatest thinker, the greatest Irishman, and
the greatest. Oh,
what can you say? I mean, we know we're not going to talk about what's recently happened and where he is and how he left, but Ben, I mean, people could see when we said it's a blockbuster day, we weren't joking, but let's talk Harry Kane.
The greatest goal scorer are now officially in the history of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
And England.
And England. Captain of England as well. We've all gone through the happy tales, but this one, it's a sad story. Because he is possibly the greatest player to never win a trophy currently in English football. The fact that this player has had to go to Germany to get a trophy so people stop bagging on him. This is the most disrespected player on this list. It's the most disrespected world-class footballer of all time. Whatever he does, he will be disrespected. When he was disrespected at Tottenham, he was always disrespected by the press, by the media, and everything this guy did in his Tottenham career was utter class. And he was treated like an absolute. You can't. You can't, because we'd be cancelled and for what you'd say. He was treated disgustingly. Not even allowed to say goodbye to the people that looked after him from the age of whenever he joined. Was it 10 years old he joined?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah,
this
like
was
8 or 9, wasn't he?
Some of the moments he's dragged the team. He's dragged them on his back for almost a decade. How long it seems Harry Kane has been here. I remember his first game against Hearts, and he was absolutely awful in that game. And I thought, oh, this guy's never going to come to anything.
Missed the penalty.
In comes Tim Sherwood, and suddenly this player, who we all probably thought of writing off, started scoring goals. And everyone kept on saying he's a one-season wonder. Oh, we won't do it for many years. And he kept on scoring. He scored, and he scored, and he scored. And didn't he just score? He bulked up. He got stronger. He upgraded his game. Every single year, his level just kept on getting better. He's teetotal. So he's one of those players, unlike someone like a Robbie Keane who was decking pints. He was teetotal. He's during the season, he's teetotal. I know that's going to change now. He's in a different football club where they've got a culture of doing certain things. He got better year after year after year. And even with his injuries, I would always get an injury around January when someone eventually would ruin his ankle because they would just kick him. He still would score 20, 25 goals in a season. Just a goal-scoring machine. And he's now proven it at Bayern. So was it 18 goals in the first 10?
I think he's got more now. He's already...
he's got over 20.
Yeah, but no, in the Bundesliga...
Oh, the league. Sorry.
He set a record a couple of Fridays ago where he is already, after 12 Bundesliga games, he is already the leading English goal scorer in a season in the Bundesliga, and they have people like Kevin Keegan.
Yeah.
And he's already got more than last season's Golden Boot.
Yeah.
He is a machine. He is a legend in his own right. But I know it's never going to happen because it's because of the way he left. If he spends 4 years at Bayern Munich, whatever it is, I'm praying that this guy gets to come back to Tottenham and at least finish his career at Tottenham, because this is his home. He's had to leave his home, the place he adores. You can, when he did his reaction video to him leaving, you could see it was utterly painful for him to leave the place that he built, because he's so desperate to win, and he was never going to win because we won't talk about. But
you're doing all the talking for me. I don't even need to mention this. You're doing a very good job. Very well done.
The person at the top of the food chain would not back his ambition, which was to win trophies at Tottenham. If he could have, if you talked to him, if he could have asked for one thing, it would be to win a trophy at Tottenham.
Yep.
He loves Tottenham. No one on this planet loves Tottenham more than Harry Kane loved Tottenham. He was one of us. He was one of our own. And it's heartbreaking that we've had to not only lose this player, but we've lost this player when we've now received the gift of Ange Postecoglou, who loves football. Imagine we had Ange Postecoglou and Harry Kane for a season. You're talking 40 goals, I think, in the Premier League.
Probably.
It's heartbreaking. We'll bring it to Sim first, because he's probably going to echo my thoughts perfectly. But what do you think, Sim?
Kane is an archetypal story of like the underdog who kind of his career, who kind of who fought for his own career, who made himself better. Wasn't just down to natural talent or down to God-given talent. He made himself who he was. And he's the perfect kind of story of don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a player too early. Everyone, he broke into the Tottenham team at 21, but everyone before then, and didn't really give you hear any of the coaches talk about Kane. Everyone wrote him off. No one believed he was going to be good enough for the Tottenham. No one believed he was going to be good enough even for the Premier League. How many loan spells did he go on before he broke into the Tottenham team? And apart from, I think there was one at Millwall where I think he got Young Player of the Year, all of them were he flattered to deceive. None of them really wanted to keep him on for a long time. He was very nearly sold for, I think we nearly sold him in a part exchange deal, I remember.
That's like 300k, right?
300k.
600k.
600k, so I can't remember where to. And when it might have been, I can't remember, but when he broke into the team and finally got his run, he never looked back, and he literally never stopped scoring. And everyone was shocked where these goals were coming from. But what was amazing about Kane was, I remember when he first broke into the team, everyone was making jokes. Remember those Jesus Kane memes? They put Kane on Jesus. Yeah. He was the Messiah, because everyone was calling him the Europa League Messi. Everyone was saying he's jokingly saying he was our Messiah because we were playing badly at the moment. But he'd actually turned out to be our Messiah. That's exactly what he turned out to be. The joke turned out to be a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it was a bit of a lesson from Kane of turning the ridicule into fuel, into what turned out to be an unbelievable career for Tottenham Hotspur and for England. And now look who's laughing. He's the top ever goal scorer for England, the top ever goal scorer for Tottenham Hotspur. Not just a scorer of goals, but one of the most clinical finishers on both feet I've ever seen in my life. He redeveloped his game now he's 30 into this ultimate playmaker who also gets goals as well. He's like a hybrid Sheringham and Shearer, both of their best. And he is just a player who is a lesson for all footballers never to give up, essentially, and never to take your eye off the goal, take your eye off the prize, because he didn't. Even when everyone doubted him, even when people didn't believe in him, even when he had coaches saying he wasn't going to make it, not good enough, even when he had fans saying he wasn't going to make it, he wasn't good enough. Not only did he become good enough, he became the best. And I think that's a very important lesson that I think everyone should take away from Harry Kane's story.
I think he's the football's apex predator.
Oh, you got a bit of Randy Orton in there. I see what you did there.
He's football's apex predator.
Bobby K.
We'll go to Bobby. We'll go to Bobby. What do you think about Mr. Kane, Sir Harold?
Yeah, he did okay for a fat, chubby, slow kid, didn't he?
Yeah.
I still remember reading those comments. Now, I know I'm the only father here on this panel, but I can't imagine little K or Jay coming to me at 8 years old saying, Dad, or 8 or 9 years old, whatever he was at Arsenal, and crying his eyes out saying, Dad, they said I'm too slow, I'm too fat or too chubby to play this game. I'm not going to make it. I would have been heartbroken for my children. I couldn't imagine the disappointment in their eyes and how that could easily have turned into a defeatist attitude and pretty much ruined his life. But no, like Sim said, this guy took that and said, no problem. I'm a fat, chubby little kid that's not going to make it. I'll show you. From that age, to develop that winner's mentality, to go out there, push himself to excel, to become the best. Like Sim said, he went out 4 or 5 loans. I know he's in Norwich. I know he went to Leicester. I know he went to Leighton. And you said
Millwall.
So I know those ones. So I guess those 4. And like you said, he never really blew up anywhere there. I know the 2 at the top are not going to like what I'm about to say here, but this is the one time I will give Daniel Levy just a little bit of credit for his cheapness, because I firmly believe that had Aston Villa not wanted that extra £1 million for Benteke that we weren't willing to pay, Harry Kane might have gone back out on loan somewhere else. It was because we had injuries and a lack of a striker that he was given an opportunity. And he took that opportunity with both hands and said, I'm never going to let this position go now. Yeah. And not only did he make it his own for the one season that he was going to be the wonder for, he owned it for the next decade almost. Breaking records, scoring goals, left, right, center, head, off his ass, off his... Amazing, just absolutely amazing. The memories that he's given us all, because he's recent, the memories he's given my children that are going to last them a lifetime going forward, I have to be thankful for. And on top of that, just what an incredible human being. How gracious he is. The fact that he gives back to the community, the fact that he works with youth, the fact that he recognizes he has a bit of a speech impediment himself, so he helps other children, develop confidence and work with learning aids and stuff. He goes out there and he reads to the children and stuff. I have yet to read or hear a bad thing about this guy. Family man, father of 4, or is it 5 now? I know he was. So he had his 4th, right? So 4 now. Heartbreaking that we had to lose him. Heartbreaking that we had to watch him go all the way to Germany. Like Ben, you already touched on it. I can't even imagine. I'm sure all of us as Spurs fans have sat here and just wondered, what if he was still sitting there in that nice number 9 role where he should be? But he's not. So all we can do is wish him well. We know he's going to flourish wherever he is. The only reason I know, I think he scored 20, 23 or 25 goals, something like that already for Bayern in all competitions, only because my nephew Ryan, who lives with us, is a Bayern fan, and he always likes to come and rub it into little K a little bit. So he's going on about it the other day to him about how many goals he scored for him. But I'm happy for him. I really am. I wish him nothing but success. I think he's an incredible human being. I hope he wins his trophies over there and says, okay, that's all I wanted. I'm good to go. Cancels his contract after 2 years, comes back and leads us to a few titles as well. I'll be a happy camper, and maybe let's just hope he can lead England to some form of glory as well, in the first time in over 60 years. So that'd be.
I don't think I've ever been, apart from when Gareth Bale left, I don't think I've ever been this heartbroken over a player leaving.
You say that,
and it wasn't just heartbreaking because a player left. It was heartbreaking because it was the correct reason. He had to go.
You say this, Ben, and I've got to say, I'm going to try to stay away from everything that's been discussed about it and bring other things up. But you talk about saying goodbye. I will remember I was working at my dad's shop when it was officially announced, and Simeon was like, Brian, can you help me do a video? Harry Kane's gone. And we went through the media stuff, and it was making me sick. It was making every single Spurs supporter sick. But seeing him do his Bayern promo and everything, which is a sight we never thought we'd see. But listen, there's so much I'm going to back onto with what Bobby said, though. First of all, I want to go back to the Klinsmann and Sheringham thing. For me, this guy had Klinsmann's finishing ability. Sheringham's speed of thought. Glenn Hoddle's passing, his passing progressed. This is what hard work and dedication does. This is what going to work and staying back. Beckham did it with free kicks. Lampard did it with his sprints. This man used to work. The first game I ever saw him was when we drew 2-2 with Hull in again League Cup, and we won on penalties, and Gylfi Sigurdsson scored a fucking cracker. But he came on at second half, and he changed the game. This is before he started. This guy, you look at the goals he scored, the headers, the long shots, the long ranges, the partnerships, the everything. But you look at this, and the kind of guy, this man just saw records and said, I'm going to smash them. This man just sees a record. Look at that goal scoring record that you've got there. Our greatest goal. The greatest. How many people in their life get to say, people that saw Jimmy Greaves saw him set a record, people that saw Bobby Charlton break the English record, who got to see their goal scorer break their club record goal scorer and be the club captain, a country's captain, and break that record in a you don't see it. And the other record that I love talking about, you say one season wonder, the last season of the Lane where we finished second, he was in a golden boot race with Romelu Lukaku with 2 games to go. So what does he do? It's like, okay, so you're 2 goals ahead of me with 2 games to go. I'll score 4 goals against Leicester, and I'll score a hat-trick against Hull, and now you need to score 5 goals on the last game. This man just, like we just said, the records. This man sees a record. When they set that youth terminology or whatever gets used now, they say, hold my beer.
Yeah.
That's Harry Kane. Oh, that's your record? Okay, hold my beer. I'll be back shortly. Yeah. This man, you talk about, this is arguably, when you're talking about Tottenham Hotspur greats, forget the way he's left, forget what people think. This man is very, very, very heavily in the conversation. Yeah. Very, very.
He's like, in the top 3. Certain he's in the top 3.
You got to say, but the great. Him. No, I was about to say the greatest thing about him is, I'll go back to you after him, and the greatest accolade I can give him is, we know being England captain comes with added media pressure, added responsibility. For a guy in his position, breaking records, everything you do, and representing the club, we know footballers can get a bad rap. We know footballers can get themselves into trouble. This man only ever dominated the back pages. Never, ever, ever on the front. You look at it, childhood sweetheart Kate, from school, married, loved, kids. You never saw him out late at night. You never saw him in bars or clubs or never, ever go to work, do your job, go home, be with your family, eat, sleep, repeat. This guy is an icon, absolute icon. Sim, what was you about to say?
I was just going to say, and most importantly, he always scored against the Arsenal.
Yeah, always.
Every bloody game.
My favourite ever Spurs goal, his first header, the header in the 2-1.
Yeah,
that header,
unbelievable.
My favourite ever. I mean, we could talk about his greatest goals, but this will become a 4-hour stream. But listen, day 10, the blockbuster, I guarantee this will be the longest one, and people will understand why. Thank you, boys, for joining us. Mothership, where can they find you?
We are Tottenham TV. You can find us on YouTube or Twitter or Instagram. But yeah, go follow us. We're going to be doing the watch along. Well, this is
every season,
every game we're doing watch alongs. Every game we're doing watch alongs. Very good, Brian. But yeah, look, just check out our channel. Really appreciate it, and thanks for having me on.
Always a pleasure, brother. And my Toronto brother, Bobby K, where can people find you, geezer?
3 Spurs Boys, very simple on YouTube, the number 3, and then Spurs Boys. We're doing well. We're right behind We Are Tottenham TV. I think we're only about 130,000 behind now.
Yeah.
And just right on the heels, man. So the channel's growing, good things coming.
We'll get you there.
Kids have their little recap show and everything, and just a little lighthearted fun over here. And by all means, come on over for a laugh anytime.
Well, Ben, that's
having me on, boys. It's been good. I enjoyed this.
Mate, it's honestly getting loads of people on. This has been a lot of fun to record, hasn't it, Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun to spend time with these boys, and I spend a lot of time with Bobby myself on my channel. And yeah, it's always great. We thought of these two immediately when we saw
Appreciate
the number
it.
10. But it's been an absolutely wonderful show. And from everyone here at Tottenham on Tour, we wish you a wonderful Christmas and holiday season. Spoil yourself, eat, drink, be merry, listen to some great music, have a great time. Thank you all so much for watching today's edition. And yeah, come on, you Spurs.
Go on, you Spurs.
Go on, you Spurs.
Tottenham on Tour.